Hello, and welcome back to this Pokemon Scarlet Surprise Trade Crochet Badge Quest on the I've Pet That Pokemon channel. If you're new here, let me introduce you to the challenge. I am surprise trading a Pokemon before each gym, Titan, and Team Starbase, and then crocheting the Pokemon I receive each time. In the last long-awaited episode, our newest member, Meowscarada, used all the tricks up her sleeve to comfortably take down Tulip's Psychic-type team and earn us our 6th gym badge. I then ended the episode by catching this Fido for trade. Fido is sent off to Champ, who, in turn, sends us their Slakoth. This lazy sloth Pokemon is an interesting one for a number of reasons, so let's take a look. It's level 20 and ready to evolve into Vigoroth already, but we'll get it to Slaking before we can take on the next challenge anyway. I can see that it has a Flying Terror type, which tells me that this Slakoth came from a Terror raid. It's modest natured, so more special attack and less physical attack. That may be a problem considering this Pokemon is mainly a physical attacker, but it's something I can deal with. What makes this Pokemon line especially unique is the ability Truant. Truant makes it so that this Pokemon can only attack once every other turn. It loafs around on its off turn, which is something I'm no stranger to over the course of this badge quest. We have quite a few gyms left, so it makes sense to continue with those for the time being. I've been putting off Iono for quite a while, but now seems like as good a time as any to battle with the electric streamer. Speaking of, I decided the best way to record this challenge would be to stream it myself. That's me in the corner. Graphic design is my passion. Before I look at Slakoth's design, I wanted to train with it a little. First thing first, I have an Adamant Mint in my bag. Mints can change a Pokemon's nature to a different one, so I can take care of our modest hindrance and give us a boost in attack instead. Slakoth is obviously slow, so battling solo isn't the easiest, and he accepts help from the team to reach his goal of evolving into Vigoroth. This takes no time at all, and it's already time to say goodbye to Slakoth. But first, let's break down this design for Crochet. Slakoth is a nice simple design. It has a round head, almost pineapple-like, with a spiky hair at the top. In the 3D models, these are usually depicted as 5 individual spikes. The head and body connect like a peanut shell. Slakoth have a pink pig nose that sits underneath dark circled half-closed eyes. These eyes are the only constant across the line. Slakoth has 2 long arms that end with 2 sharp claws, reminiscent of the two-toed sloth, its real-world counterpart. The back legs are much shorter but also end with 2 long claws. They have exposed pink bellies as well as a pink oval butt. This will be the first time I'm crocheting a Pokemon butt. Each paw has 2 pink paw pads at their base. Finally, they have 2 dark brown horizontal stripes across their backs, and the fur on the back is often depicted as spiky with tufts of fur sticking up. The colours I'm using for Slakoth are a tan colour for the bulk of the head, body and limbs, a dark brown for the back stripes, and a pink for the belly, butt, paw pads and nose. I also forgot to show off the white that I'll use for the claws and eyes. I started at the tip of the head and make a quick ball. I extend it slightly so it's not completely spherical, and then don't fully close off the ball. Instead, I decrease the size of my round and then increase it again to begin the body in the same piece. It's just a case of working down the body about double the length of the head before I then close off the piece. I'm left with this peanut shape. I make 5 small cones that will act as the hair spikes before moving on to the limbs. I make 2 long cones in white for the claws, and then bring them together as one, switching colours back to the tan to work up the arm. The arms are super long, so I do a bunch of rounds to make a tube. I make 2 and then attach them to the body. I make 2 thin rectangles in brown for the back stripes. I'll sew on the rough edges later. The feet begin the same as the arms. 2 claws crocheted together and then I work up the foot. Instead of a tube, I do some short rows to change the direction and give the look of a bended foot before working up the short leg. The belly is an oval in pink, nothing too difficult. I do the same for the butt and circles for the paw pads. For most of my crochets, I've usually added the eyes on in felt, but I thought that I could easily make up Slakoths in crochet. So I make a small white circle and change to brown for another round. That top colour change will then be covered by the pink eyelid, which I make by doing a small semicircle. I make the nose quickly by crocheting a circle with a bit of depth. I can then add all the embroidered elements like the pupils, nostrils and smile, and Slakoth is complete. Back in the game, we have a little bit more grinding until Vigoroth can evolve into Slaking. Vigoroth is the wild monkey Pokemon and exhibits massive amounts of energy compared to its pre-evolution. It loses its Truant ability, so it can now attack every turn. This would be great, but I'm tackling some big level trainers so I can speed up Vigoroth's training, and thus I have to rely on my other team members to battle for Vigoroth. After clearing out most of the trainers in the local area, I head up towards Casseroya Lake that has quite a big level jump, with some trainers Pokemon even out-leveling my own team. These big EXP yields mean that Vigoroth Training goes by in the blink of an eye. I'll be honest, before this challenge I didn't really care for Vigoroth. He always looked so menacing and dangerous, like this thing could kill me if it felt like it. It felt untrainable like Primeape in that way. No affection towards its trainer, just anger and always in the need of energy release. This challenge completely changed my mind on him though. As I was crocheting him, I kind of fell in love with the design and his silly Muppet face. So as Vigoroth prepares for evolution, let's break down its design for Crochet. Vigoroth is almost completely different than its predecessor design-wise. Its head merges with the neck and body, sloping down its now bipedal form. Its bottom jaw is brown and usually hangs open, showing off its fangs and tongue. It has two stubby ears, a small round nose, and a teardrop tuft of reddish hair. The eyes are similar to Slakoth's but now fully open. Vigoroth's arms are still very long and end in two black claws. The legs are short, but the feet end with the same black claws. Each paw has a reddish paw pad underneath. The hair on the body is wild, with tufts jutting out of the sides of the neck and on the chest. Vigoroth's back sports the two stripes carried over from Slakoth, as well as a reddish butt. This is the only Pokemon in this line with a tail. The colours I'll use are white for the bulk of the body, a dark brown for the jaw and back stripes, and a reddish orange for the hair, nose, paw pads and butt. Now, I debated on how to make Vigoroth's face. I've always known the Pokemon with a large open mouth. It can close it, mostly seen in the 3D models, but I felt like it was a defining feature of the Pokemon. I began at the top of the head in white, and then when I reached the top of where the mouth would be, I added in some double crochets to give it those rounded lips. I then stopped working in the round and only extended out the back of the head before making a long chain and joining them back up. This leaves me with a big open gap that I can fit the mouth inside. This took a lot of faith because it wasn't really looking good to me at this point. I'm not going to know how good this effect will be until I finish the rest of the mouth, and that will be after I finish the body. I added the brown yarn into the jaw and worked around the bottom of the mouth, giving it a slight curve in the centre. I posted a picture of this onto social media to see if anyone could guess who's that Pokemon. I didn't have too many guesses, but it was correctly guessed. Slakoth showed up briefly in the last video, taking part in the gym test mini game. Try and find the next Pokemon hidden in this video, if you can. continue working the rounds down the body, making it slightly more top heavy. It now looks like a weird vase. I haven't added stuffing because of the current gaping mouth, so let's fix that. I make a red rectangle big enough to fit inside the gap I've left. This can be folded and sewn into the mouth. I then make a tongue in pink. Boy, I really missed some colours out of that initial colour lineup. This is just a circle that again is folded in half so that I can stuff it slightly like a Cornish pasty. The teeth are 4 small white cones, and I stuff all of these into the mouth cavity to give me a smiling worm sun. Time to finish the face. I make the eyes the same as Slakoth's. Again, the colour change will be hidden by another piece. The nose is a small circle, and it's really reminding me of a Muppet or a Grumpus right now. I make the hair as a long cone at first, before widening out the base to give it that teardrop shape. Then finally the ears are 2 small wide cones. For Vigoroth's arms, I couldn't decide on whether I wanted him to be completely bipedal like he usually is in his 3D models, flexing his arms, or if I wanted him to use his arms for support, leaning on his knuckles like an ape. I went with the latter because this Pokemon is very top heavy, and I wanted it to stand by itself after the last string of bipedal crochets. So I work up a long, thick tube. I make the arms about the same length of the body, and then add some short rows to change the direction for the shoulders. I make some circles for the paw pads, and then add 2 thin, long cones for the claws. I attach these to the arms at an angle so that the claws bend underneath them. For the feet, I make an oval as the base and then work upwards, closing off the front so that it looks more like a little booty. Vigoroth's legs are usually bent, so I add in some short rows for the knees before finishing off the leg. The claws on the feet are slightly shorter than the front claws, and I add red ovals for the foot pads. The other details like the butt and the back stripes are quickly sewn on, and then I work on the tail. I make a cone that gets thicker before narrowing again and add some small cones for the offshoots. I make some frills for the neck tufts as well as some cones for the chest hair, and Vigoroth is finished. Evolving Vigoroth into Slaking brings about even more changes. It returns to its lazy state, bringing back the truant ability. This is an acceptable downfall for the Pokemon though, as it now has the highest base stat total of any Pokemon that's not legendary, mythical or Omega. Going from Vigoroth to Slaking doubles its attack stat from 80 to 160. So it's understandable if this Pokemon can't attack every turn. Also, don't mistake its laziness for slowness. It boasts an impressive 100 speed stat.
I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am. I'm fast as boy.
I don't think Slaking will have too much trouble with this gym, but I wanted to give him every advantage I can. I teach him Facade, a move that doubles its power if the Pokemon is burnt, poisoned or paralysed. That last one is a very real possibility going into the electric gym. With that set, I go to the gym to take part in the challenge. I meet up with Professor Jacques, who gives me a lucky egg. This item boosts the EXP gained by the holder, something that would have been really useful for this grind. Heading outside, we meet Iono for the first time. Her stream overlay sits inside mine, and we take part in her hide and seek challenge. I gotta say, I have to admire people who stream because it's honestly a really tough thing to get into as a small creator. I've only done this a handful of times, and I appreciate the people that come by to say hi and chat with me. What they don't tell you about streaming though is that half the people will be asking for my Discord so that they can sell me things or offer to grow my audience. I'm just doing this for fun. I'm not super focused on buying a big audience or commissioning overlays. So if you're wondering why that chat box is covered up during this section, it's just people begging for clicks. In between finding Clavel, we take part in a few battles. The first is just one Pokemon, so we don't see Truant in action, but the second has 2 Pokemon. During our loafing turn, Slaking is paralysed by this flaffy. Not the ideal status condition considering it cuts our speed, but it's the one I expected for this gym. Our facades will now be doing a base 140 damage plus the same type attack bonus. Unfortunately, we see the downsides of paralysis immediately when Slaking is fully paralysed on his next turn, skipping his attacking turn completely. Luckily, this flaffy is doing little damage and we take it down on the next turn. Finding Clavel for the final time completes this challenge, and it's time to look at Slaking's design for Crochet. Slaking is mostly shown lying on its side. It occasionally gets up but is rare to see. It has a large brown body. The head is covered in white ruffled hair looking almost like a knapsack, complete with the ties on top. Its big ugly face sticks out of the white hair. Slaking has a large brow with defined ridges that sits over its brown ringed eyes. It has a wide mouth and an underbite that shows off its bottom fangs when the mouth is closed. It has a pink pig-like nose. The chest and belly on its body are similar to a gorilla's chest, with the bare skin on show. The arms are relatively long and end in rugged hair and 5-fingered hands. The legs are shorter, with the feet only having one toe separated from the rest. It's a simple design and the first of its line that doesn't feature claws, paw pads or an exposed butt. Before I started Slaking, the colour I wanted to use for the main body was this lighter brown that matched the original art more, but I decided to use this darker brown that I've been using for the rest of the line. I'll also use a tan colour for the skin tone, white for the head and a pink for the nose. So I started with the body. I went a bit overboard with the size of Vigoroth, so I can't really make Slaking larger than that, especially with what brown yarn I have left. I start the body in brown, making a sort of peanut shape. I make the head in white separately because I wanted to include the ruffled neckline at the base. I make a long half sphere and then expand it outwards to make that collar. Moving on to the hands, I've never made something like this before. Most hands I make don't have individual fingers, but Slaking's hands are rather human-like. I tested a few things out, but eventually decided on starting at the bottom, working up, and then making a long chain to act as a thumb when bent down. The fingers are made the same, but a little further along and slightly longer. Long chain, bend it down and slip stitch the stitches together. I'm really pleased with how these turned out. The arms are just long tubes with a ruffled edge, similarly to how I ruffled the collar. I can add some wire inside the arms so that they can bend and strike Slaking's signature pose. For the feet, I start with a small nubbin for the toe, and then attach it to a bigger oval and work down the foot and make this mitten shape. The legs are exactly the same as the arms, but slightly shorter. I'm now really glad I made Slaking smaller than Vigoroth, because this was what was left of my brown yarn once I was done. For the bosom, I make 2 circles that I then crochet together to make this figure 8 shape.
And yet, I feel a great sadness in my bosom.
Then the belly section is just a larger circle that the breastplate will sit on top of. The brow is made with a semicircle that I then work into a round and give it some depth. The eyes are exactly the same as before. Once again, the colour change stitch will be hidden by the brow. The mouthpiece is an oval with a flat section at the top so that the eyes can sit on top of it. I think I should have made this section larger and the brow smaller, but that was all in hindsight. The mouth goes on first so that the eyes can sit on top of that, and then the brow covers the top of the eyes. There's something very Homer Simpson about this.
Read the bosom part again, man.
I make a small pink nose and shape it into more of a heart shape when I've sewn it down. The final piece of crochet are the small knapsack hair stalks that get added onto the top of the head, and then I can then add in the embroidered part such as the pupils, nostrils, mouth, teeth and brow ridges. Slaking is now ready to wake up and take down Iono. Iono pulls us into the Iono zone, introducing us to her stream before we get started on the battle. Her first Pokemon is a Wattrel, an electric flying type. When Slaking comes out, I see that we've been given a free heal and have been cured of paralysis. Nothing to cause concern, Slaking is way over leveled for this gym anyway. He slaps the bird out of the sky immediately with a facade. I don't think the crit really mattered. Up next is Bellybolt, coming out on Slaking's loafing turn. It hits us with a spark, doing a pathetic 10 damage but paralysing us in the process. Facade is back on top. Slaking is fully paralysed next turn. Unfortunate, but I'm not worried about getting hit by another spark. The next Facade takes down Bellybolt, and out comes Pokemon number 3, Luxio. This Luxio has Intimidate, and reduces our attack stat by 1 stage. Somehow I still think Slaking can shrug this off too. We get tickled by another spark on our loafing turn, and then, once again, we're fully paralysed on our attacking turn, allowing the Luxio to smack us with a critical hit. One more spark on our loafing turn brings Slaking down to just above half health. Mustering up enough motivation to attack, Slaking hits back with another Facade to take down the Luxio and bring out Iono's ace, the ghost-type Mismagius. She terrestrialises Mismagius on the first turn, allowing it to become a pure electric type. This Mismagius now has no weaknesses with its ability Levitate, making any ground-type move miss. Luckily I'm not using ground-type moves. This will also be one of the only times I'm not terrestrialising myself during the challenge. Slaking's Terra type is flying, so that would give us a big disadvantage. Sticking with normal type also means Slaking is immune to Mismagius' Hex attack. She hits us with a charge beam, but misses as Slaking loafs. A Confuse Ray confuses Slaking next turn, and Slaking hits itself. Our high attack stat may be our own undoing. A second charge beam misses, and Slaking loafs. Both of us seem to be skipping a turn. The third charge beam of the match finally hits, and we see the effect of this move. It raises Mismagius' special attack. This could be dangerous if we get confused, paralysed or loaf too long. Fortunately, Slaking is fed up of this battle and hits Mismagius with a final Facade, taking it down in just 1 hit. We get to take a screenshot with the Lean Mean Streaming Queen, and she gives us our 6th badge. Now Pokemon up to level 50 will listen to us in battle. Appropriate to Iono, I head outside of Levincia and catch this Magnemite for trade. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you all next time.
Jump up!